Welcome to my midweek episode of Real Women's Stories with me, Lisa Quait. This episode is a coaching episode, and today we're going to be talking about routine to romance and how we get there. If you're listening to this in real time, it is nearly Valentine's Day, and it's all about love and, the passion. But what if our relationships just don't feel that exciting? What if we've been married for like 15 years or 10 years or even 5 years, but all of a sudden we kind of are in that situation where we look at our partner and we were like, I love you, but there's something kind of missing. How can we get out of that mundane routine that we go through with our romance? We often get into a routine and into a pattern of behavior that takes over and removes all that vulnerability and that lovely romance that we once felt when we first went on our dates with our partners. Let's talk about what is vulnerability. So it's about not hiding our feelings and our emotions and being our authentic, real self and letting our partners we can show them our flaws, show them our little rough edges, because none of us are perfect, are we? The benefits of being vulnerable is to improve our intimacy and our deeper trust with each other. So, how can we overcome and understand our fears? Because when we're vulnerable, there are always going to be fears associated with it, because it's that feeling of that fear inside our tummies. It's that feeling of, oh, I'm putting myself in this situation and I'm not quite sure what reaction I'm going to get or how the other person's going to feel. So before you can be vulnerable, I think it's a really good idea to work on some reflective questions to create a better and a greater understanding of ourselves and how we feel when we're being vulnerable. Because if we go through that process first, being vulnerable won't seem so daunting when we're working through all of the things that I'm going to be discussing with you as we go through this coaching episode. Let's think about self-reflection. Let's think about ourselves. Why is it that we don't want to be vulnerable? What is it in our lives that we potentially have gone through that prevents us from being in that situation where we can be our true self? Is it the fact that we feel that other people are going to judge us? Is it the fact that we're scared of the reaction that we're going to get, that we might feel rejected, that somebody may not like us if we're our true self? But remember, in a relationship, you were your true self when you first met your partner. Are there any situations that you can think about where you've been vulnerable and then someone has not reacted to you in the way that you wanted to, and therefore that has then prevented you for being more vulnerable? Was there a situation? Are there any triggers that you have? Identify them and acknowledge them. Understand why you feel the fear of feeling vulnerable. Can you remember a time when potentially you could have been or felt rejected by somebody, by a partner, a previous boyfriend in a situation? It's often that we're rejected when we're being vulnerable, when we're young, and then we prevent ourselves and build this barrier around us that we don't allow ourselves into that space again, because we're just scared of being rejected once more. So think back. Was there a time with a previous partner or a situation where you allowed yourself to vocalize your feelings and emotions and somebody did not take them on board and almost rejected you to the point where you felt that horrible sinking feeling in your stomach? Well, I'm going to tell you something special. You're married to somebody who loves you. And if you open yourself out and if you tell them how you're feeling, I guarantee you they will not reject you. They love you. They care about you. They want what's best for you. They want a great relationship just the way you do. So if you just share your feelings with that person, I'm sure that they will not reject you or push you away. Just take that leap of faith. Have that self awareness. Think about any triggers that have happened to you in your life that have prevented you. And that may well be, they could be when you were a kid that happened, where you were in a playground and you went to go up and play with a group of people, a group of kids, another group of kids, and they kind of didn't want to play with you. That's horrible, isn't it? But those feelings stay with us. So here's a couple of things that I've identified that maybe you could try. How about sharing your feelings? So instead of when your partner says, "How are you today?" and you go, "Yeah, I'm fine." What about saying how you really feel? How you really feel. "I feel really overwhelmed today. I'm not having a great day. I'm feeling a little bit anxious. And you know what I'd really love? I'd really like a hug. I'd really like a hug from you." That's something really simple. What do you think your partner's going to do? And that's a sign of vulnerability. You've allowed that person into your space and you've let them know how you really feel rather than "I'm fine." What about how we express our needs? So instead of assuming your partner knows what you want, because, I'm like that, I assume that my partner knows what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. They don't. They've got their own stuff going on in their head. So unless you share your feelings with them, how are they going to know what you want? So I'd really appreciate it if we could spend some quality time together this week. Put it out there. And if they are busy and you don't get the response that you want, maybe say to them, "I know you are busy, but it would mean a lot to me if we could spend some time together because I want to spend some time with you. I love you and I miss you. That time that we've got together." Now that's being vulnerable. The other way that we really need to think about being vulnerable is we need to take some feedback. And sometimes that feedback isn't great. And sometimes we need to look at ourselves. It may well be that we haven't dealt with a situation in the right way. So it's accepting feedback without getting defensive. Try, "I understand your perspective and I appreciate you sharing it with me." So instead of, getting all defensive, saying to your partner, "Look, I understand how you're feeling, and I really appreciate you sharing your perspective on the situation with me." You'll then get some respect from the other person when you're in those conversations. Have a think about what vulnerability means to you, how it can grow your connection with your partner, and maybe have a chat about that. There's another thing that I can share with you. So my husband and I, every morning now, we're trying to kiss each other before I go to work. And he said to me, I think it was, "If you kiss on the lips for 10 seconds in the morning, it will build a stronger connection." So that's what we do. We give each other a kiss on the lips for 10 seconds. And then, you know what? I feel so much closer to him. And I leave the home feeling like I've got a partner here, like I've got a true bond with somebody. And it just makes me feel better. It fills me with that nice, fluffy sensation of, well, you know what? I can carry on with my day because I've got someone at home who loves me and who's got my back. And then when I come home, I'm going to feel in a great mood and I'm going to want to see him. So we have a hug. So it's always a kiss goodbye in the morning and a hug when we come in from work. Vulnerability isn't something that happens overnight. It's a practice. It's a journey that you and your partner can embark on together. I'd just like to leave you with one question, and one question for you to think about. What's the one small step that you could take to being vulnerable this week with your partner? Just one small step. And that could be tonight, that could be on a date night, but just try it. Because if you do one little step and that feels good, and you see the difference in your relationship, then you can try another. And you can slowly build on being more and more vulnerable with your partner to build a deeper and greater connection with them. So I'm going to leave you there. I really hope everybody finds some strength and courage to be vulnerable with their partners. I have found it so valuable in my relationship to wear my heart on my sleeve, to share my feelings and share my experiences. And I really do believe that if you just take that one small step, then you too could find that deeper connection. I really hope you have a wonderful week. And if it is Valentine's Day, share some love with your partner. Be vulnerable because you never know what can happen. And I will see you next time for my next guest episode of Real Women's Stories.